Live. We're going live. I'm gonna have a live show live at 5 p.m. Pacific. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the weekly Spin Rack hosted by me, Chris. And hello to all of you out there. Look at this. Hello to Shane from Atomic Comics in Tacoma. Hello, Riv Wilson. Thank you for the super chat. Hello to Steve Sorensen. Thank you for the super chat. We'll be talking about Kevin O'Neill tonight. Absolutely. So nice of you folks to be here. Look at that. Hello, Philip. Hello, Roz. Hello, Gantris. Hello, all of you. I can't say hello to all of you. It's going too fast for me. But tell you what, I know what you guys like. You don't just like comics. Comics you can get anywhere. I feel like I'm doing a Trump thing here, like my elbows in tight. You don't just like comics. You like you like salutes, right? Well, look at that. 2 salutes for you. Yeah, you earned it. You guys are the comic troopers, right? This is Chris from Comic Tropes bringing you this week's comic book news and reviews, a digestible show all about comics, a live show. Look at that. I love comics. Well, I love comics too. Hello to Andy Kuhn, beloved superstar artist. We love having him here. We love having... Okay, I'm going to stop that. That's just good. I could go down a path doing that impression. I like doing voices. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm saying I like it. Comic Troopers, I like it. You guys came up with that one. Are we going to get any sweet cat cameos this week? It's always possible. The kittens have free reign of the house. But let's see. They're tired today. I took them in for a vet appointment today, and they got themselves, I think, like a feline leukemia vaccine. So I think it's tired them out a little. They've been sleeping lately. So I don't know if we're going to see them today. Steve Sorensen says, give Chris a like to help him out. Well, hey, I won't say no to that. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, if you guys want to hit like, that definitely helps this channel. I appreciate it. And then, of course, I've got my other channel, Comic Tropes. And if you hadn't seen it, I'll plug myself. Hey, this episode of the Weekly Spinner Rack is sponsored by me. Comic Tropes this week, I had an interview with Mr. Scott Snyder. And I think it's a pretty great interview that a lot of you will get something out of. Whether that's just learning a little bit more about, say, his Batman run or his more recent self-published comics or something. But we get into a lot of stuff. We get into like how he got Stephen King to write a comic book. And just to be clear, look it up. Stephen King has basically only written like one comic and overseen his Dark Tower adaptation. So that's a big deal that Scott Snyder got Stephen King to write a comic book. And he wrote Scott's comic book for a while. So that was really cool. I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. We really talk about what it was like to work for DC during the New 52. Because if you don't know, it was pretty chaotic behind the scenes, editorial-wise. They didn't really know what they were going for necessarily. I'm going to be doing an episode about that on Comic Tropes soon. That's very interesting here. Steven says, I'm in his Substack class and really like it. We talk about what he gets out of teaching. So anyway, hope that you guys can check that out and that you like it. Let's see. I'd love it if interviews became a more regular feature. You know what? Just to be clear, I get a lot of pleasure out of conducting an interview. I find it very, very interesting. I turn down a lot of interview opportunities that with that in mind, just because you can look at the numbers and not as many people watch the interview episodes. It's just sort of its own thing. But I do that because I think that the most engaged people are going to learn something really interesting about comic books with that. So, yeah. Oh, you didn't get an interview in your notifications? Make sure to hit that bell. Yeah. Yeah, that was one thing that happened in the new 52, Andrew. Yeah. Anyway. Am I going to pay Elon $8 for that sweet, sweet check mark? No. I gave that a thought for about 3 minutes. That was about how long I took. And I was like, what if it was only $1? And I was like, no, you know what? I don't need a blue check mark next to my name for any amount of money. Like, it's kind of nice to like have that if the platform is verifying you. I'm verified on, say, YouTube. They've got like a little check mark next to my name, Comic Tropes, if I post anything. I'm going to watch it 3 times to get the numbers up. Thank you. But no, like that, I won't take long on that Twitter thing, but Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, wants to generate money for Twitter. Fine. I get it. It has to be profitable if it's going to stay around long term. I like Twitter quite a bit. I'm a little worried about it because that's one of my favorite places to get news and to interact with people. But we'll see if it stays the same. I'm concerned. But here's the thing. Most of the time, somebody that's going to get that verification check mark is somebody that people are on the platform to hear from. Somebody like, hey, Stephen King, we just mentioned, right? I'm curious what Stephen King has to say. I'm coming to Twitter to see his stuff. You don't want to charge Stephen King to be on your platform. You want to be grateful that he's on there, So, like, I don't think that that's who you should be charging. Anyway. Yeah, that true. He might buy my channel, so we'll move on. We'll move on to some comic book reviews real quick. Really more like recommendations more than anything else. But there's some good ones this week. So I'm excited to say that. Would I sell Comic Tropes for $44 billion? No, I think I'll just win the Powerball this week. I'll have like $2 billion. And you know what? That should be enough for me. I'll settle for the $2 billion. Batman by Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez. I would call this a solid superhero book. We've got a new enemy that's interesting, fail-safe. I wouldn't necessarily call this innovative yet, but as like just sort of setting the tone and the direction, cool. I know that Chip Zdarsky can write stuff that's sometimes very funny. I know he can write some stuff that's good mysteries. I would love to see him tackle more of like a mystery. Like, let's bring out the detective in Batman. I think it's an aspect that's not always thought of as like the main thing. Not always. But it's cool. And Jorge Jimenez is just going to keep continuing to grow bigger and bigger because these are great compositions beyond just good artwork. Very easy to read. Very fun to read. So it's good. I do recommend it, but I recommend it with like, are you looking for something different? Or are you just looking for solid superhero fare? I would just call this solid superhero fare. Here's something that's a little bit different. A little. It is still Batman. We've got Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo, basically all by Marc Silvestri. I say basically because he wrote it and he illustrated it. Pencils, inks, all of that. There is a colorist and a letterer there. I have not read a lot of Marc Silvestri's Image stuff. Story-wise, stuff like Witchblade in the Darkness didn't really engage me that much, but I've always really liked his artwork. Marc Silvestri was the artist on X-Men when I really started reading it regularly, and I loved his Wolverine run with Larry Hama. I like Marc Silvestri's art a lot, and his art has evolved, I will say, in this. There's a lot of extra line work to, say, the average person's face to indicate, like, form and shape. He's got a really gentle, it's not even cross hatching, it's like hatching, like a lot of parallel lines to indicate certain things. There's a lot of detail in this. Look at this 2-page spread of the Batcave. I'm saying too much as I'm thinking. Anyway, story-wise, we've got an excuse that like Batman and the Joker will be teaming up against an enemy that also seems to be like the Joker, but like monstrous. That's a mystery for now. There's one great splash page here that you might have seen in some of the previews. Let me see here if I can find it. Where I thought it was towards the beginning, but maybe I was wrong. No, it is. All right. So how did I miss it? Oh, there it is. It was even closer to the beginning. A little weird, but like Batman basically jumps off of a skyscraper and sort of buzz bombs some dirty cops. So he's gliding here right over their heads. He's knocking off somebody's toupee. It is fun. This is fun superhero stuff. And when you look at the detail in the background of how many buildings are here and stuff like that, Silvestri really didn't take any shortcuts drawing this. I mean, this shot, establishing shot of Gotham is really beautiful. It highlights the weird architecture, the constantly low, foggy, cloudy skies, and it's still sort of like on a hill, so it looks different. Like you don't see a lot of cities that sort of have this sort of almost pyramid shape to them where the biggest buildings are in the middle or anything. It's cool. It's very cool to look at Marc Silvestri's art and be able to look at it personally, a little objectively, in the sense that I haven't been looking at it that regularly for a while. So this is called Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo. It's through DC's Black Label, and this is book 1. I enjoyed this quite a bit. And one thing I like about Black Label books is they tend to have some bonus material at the back, not like as much as you might get in, say, a trade paperback all the time. But looking at the black and white artwork here, as somebody that considers themselves a student of comic books, I love being able to make this comparison. And I look at this and go, this book would have been very beautiful as just black and white. And I would have been really interested to see somebody go in with like gray tones or screen tones and see if that worked. Would screen tones work with this amount of hatching and detail? I don't know, but it would be an interesting experiment. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I am with you there, Human Falafel. I miss Vertigo too. Black Label is putting out some very interesting stuff, but Vertigo was definitely Karen Berger and Shelley Bond. Like it was the editors. I agree with you, Andy. I would love to see a pure black and white version. I think it would sell. I really do. EJ Sue talking about one of my favorite artists, period, Naoki Urasawa. Naoki Urasawa's books always have a lot of mystery and suspense. I think he and Batman would be a match made in heaven. Oh my God. Could you even imagine? If I was DC, I would throw a fortune at him and really try to make that an international, like, one shot of some sort, something that could appeal to everyone. Because I think a Naoki Urasawa Batman story would sell gangbusters in Japan. I really do. There was a Batman manga in like the late 60s or 70s by Jiro Kurawata, I think it was his name. It's interesting, but I would love to see that. Anyway, this was recommended to me on the live stream last week, and I hadn't picked it up, but I picked it up this week. Paul Dano was the actor that played the Riddler in The Batman, as in the movie. I'm going to butcher this gentleman's name, but the art is by, I'll say, Stevan Subic. I'm guessing there. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong. The Riddler Year One. What is it? Technically, it is the origin of the Joker from the movie. As in, Paul Dano, instead of keeping, say, an actor's journal with notes on what he thinks motivates his character, some important highlights that are maybe a secret to him, he wrote it very much as a script. And after the movie, DC was like, we think that this could make a good comic. And you know what? It does. It does. Yeah, there's no co-writer credited here with like formatting it for comics. So I would be very curious to know, to see some of the script pages and see what this artist Stevan did to adapt it. It reads like a great comic book. This is another case of like, boy, some of these actors are writing comic books and you go, aren't you talented enough in one field? Minor Threats by Patton Oswalt. It's really enjoyable. Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead, or I think that's what it's called, by Bruce Campbell. It's really good. And now this book. These actors need to like keep away. But they're doing a good job. By the way, cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm always going to mention Bill Sienkiewicz. Huge fan of him. And I don't think I really need to go into too much of what this book is, other than to say what happens in the life of Edward Nashton to drive him to become the Riddler. So imagine this being more of a psychological drama in a very corrupt city. And you just sort of are seeing things from his perspective, where he's seeing this corruption and he's not being given opportunities. And he knows that he has problems socializing properly, but he's trying to be a good person the way, like work hard. He's an accountant. He's trying to get ahead in life, and his way is being blocked. And then he starts seeing this corruption. What would you do? You can really put yourself in the shoes of this character in this book. I'm really impressed by it. I'm really impressed. A Paul Dano interview would do numbers. Sure. If I could get Paul Dano on my show, I would definitely be happy to interview him. I don't think that that's going to happen, but that would be a lot of funny. Joe Dent with a very important message here, telling us that everybody needs to try the new Cherry Cola Tic Tacs. Well, that sounds delightful. Hey, it's Peg Warmers. This is my friend Kevin. He's got a great YouTube show, by the way. He talks all about toys, collectibles, and stuff like that. He always has a guest or two on to talk about that. He's got some great episodes. Each episode has a theme or a topic about a different toy line. Nice to see you, Kevin. Let's see. I'm going to bang through this pretty quickly. Star Wars The Mandalorian. It's a straight adaptation of the TV show. I'm impressed that they can adapt basically a 1-hour TV show into these comics, and it doesn't feel like I'm missing anything. It's a fun way for me to recapture that that feeling that I had when I saw these initial episodes. I like this show quite a bit. Well, you guys know that. I mean, there's my wedding band, right? I don't know. There's a lot of glare, I guess, but my wedding band is the Mandalorian's mask. And so recently, I got myself a Mandalorian watch to go with it because I feel like it looks well together. I know that sort of marks me as some sort of weird ultra fan, but I enjoy the Mandalorian. So yeah, I'm getting the comic too. Why not? Why not? Let's see. In his Criterion Closet video, Paul Dano showed a great taste in art movies, so it's not a surprise if he knows how to write well. He does. He does. Is the ring made with ethically sourced Beskar? Yes. Yes. It's all approved by actual Mandalorians. Am I left or right-handed? I'm a righty. Thank goodness, too, because I don't know if I've mentioned it or not, honestly. I think I mentioned it on like my impromptu live stream that I did on Godzilla Day, but you guys probably wouldn't have heard. But I'm dealing with a terrible rotator cuff injury. Like the ligaments on my rotator cuff are all well, I don't know how bad it is yet, but it's really like I need to get some imaging done. I'm going to be getting more physical therapy and stuff like that. But my left arm is in terrible shape these days. So thank goodness I'm a righty. Thank goodness. She-Hulk. Again, I don't need to go too far into depth, but this is a bit of a nice romance story. And what I noticed in this is that the artist, Luca, I want to pronounce it right, Luca Maresca, really just draws people in a very, very believable sort of poses and very expressive. I don't know. What am I trying to say about this that's special? It's charming. It's got good superhero stuff. It's got comedy. It's got lawyer stuff. But overall, the one thing that I would describe this run by Rainbow Rowell as is a romance comic. And romance works very well in comics. When Jack Kirby and Joe Simon created that genre in the 50s, it was huge for a long time. Huge. Who colored this issue? That's a good question, Spike. Rico Renzi. Cover by Jen Bartel. She always makes something nice. Punisher. We're into issue 7 now. Might be a weird time to jump in, but that means that the first trade of the first 6 issues is very likely about to come out, if I had to guess. The Punisher is working for the villains The Hand, and he's becoming possessed by their arcane supernatural stuff. In this one, he goes up against Daredevil. Always fun to see Matt and Frank compete. They've got very different ideologies, but you always get the sense that Daredevil legit wants to like Frank. You know, I always feel that that no matter who's writing it, Daredevil would really like it if he could just get Punisher to not kill and use his amazing skills to still stop crime. And that's never going to happen because Punisher, that's just not who Punisher is. This is a surprisingly good story arc. I think generally it works very well when we take Punisher just a little bit outside of the norm of him just tracking down a mafia guy and killing him. Yeah, it can be good, but it's really good. Let's see. Hold on. I want to acknowledge this question. Wally asks or says, Ed Piskor mentioned about how he asked the Hernandez brothers and others about Kirby's romance comics, but nobody confessed about liking them despite being Kirby fans. Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's the Catholic in Matt. You're right. Frank and Castle. Well, honestly, even the really popular run by Ennis and Dillon, yeah, Punisher was going to town on criminals, but he dealt with some pretty weird criminals too in that, when you think back to it. Like, he dealt with some real weirdos, so it was doing something different too. Let's see. What's cool about this, though, is there's these flashback chapters with artwork by Paul Azaceta or Azaceta. I'm terrible at names. That really get us to know who Frank Castle is and who he was. And it almost reads like a horror story when you see just how broken he was, but how much he was trying to hide it. Because we know who the Punisher is, it just all reads as so sad that, like, you know, he was trying to have this family life, because we just know that it doesn't come to pass. And even if his family hadn't been gunned down, he probably would have become the Punisher. He would have, I don't know what the inciting incident would have been, but he would have become the Punisher. And you see him trying to be a father which is quite charming with his kids. He makes efforts, but he's not quite right. And I think that works because the Punisher, if we take as canon everything that's happened to him, he's probably killed thousands at this point. And you have to be a fairly broken people to do that much and keep going. Just two more. Look, Saturday Morning Adventures worked really, really well for G.I. Joe. What's happening now? They're doing it with Ninja Turtles. Written by Erik Burnham, who did those G.I. Joe issues. Art by Tim Lattie. I would say that this reads very much like those original cartoons. The artwork is sort of in the style, not 100%, but it's more than serviceable. It's a lot of fun. If you want something retro and a little more innocent, these are great. These are really cool. Let me mention this before I get into the news and drawing and taking your questions. I just interviewed Scott Snyder, and we had a great conversation about what he likes about horror. So if you're curious, please watch that interview. This book that he's doing with Francesco Francavilla, who, if I'm remembering right, was it Francesco Francavilla that Snyder did Batman Black Mirror? Or was that Jock? I'm thinking Jock he did Witches with. I'm sort of mixing up the names. You guys can correct me on that history there. But he's worked with him before. And Scott Snyder is very good at horror. And Francesco Francavilla is very good at horror. I love the horror stuff he did with Archie, by the way. This is cool because it's about a new monster that basically explains where other monsters have come from. Very disturbing because it's all about hidden disease and body horror stuff. It's got some really creepy moments in here. But the reason it works, we care about this father and son that are the protagonists. We don't want something bad to happen to them. And they're in some really big danger. They're way in over their heads. Yeah, he makes you care about the characters, and that's where the horror comes from. Very effective. Both Jock and Francavilla did Black Mirror. Okay, that's why I was confusing it. They both did it. Thank you for that additional information. That's really helpful. Oh, and I picked up one back issue, which I had read before, but I guess I just didn't have anymore. This was in Jonathan Hickman's awesome Avengers and New Avengers run that led up to Secret Wars. It was so epic. This issue was when Black Panther and Namor finally really came to blows, which I'm sure they're going to mine a little bit of that conflict for this upcoming Wakanda Forever. This was a great issue, issue 7. I got that at a good price, so I was excited to get that. Let's see what comments we have before we get into the news here, and then I'm going to do some artwork. I've laid out in pencil very lightly here a Batman and Nightwing. It was almost going to be a Batman and Robin. Then I was like, no, I've never really drawn Nightwing much, so I'm going to do that. Francavilla has such a nice old school movie poster quality to his art. I could see that. That's an interesting observation. Sure. Do you think that the fan term Copper Age is warranted for comics from 86 to 2000, or should we consider them modern age? It does feel like, I don't know, that's something that's up for debate, and it needs to be a consensus. But I think that, there's the Golden Age, there's the Silver Age, and then we basically have acknowledged this modern age, but that's becoming so unwieldy with how much time there is. I definitely think that the mid-'80s produced some very different comics, and I would personally take that more to around 91 or 92 when Image starts, and I think that represents another era. I think 86 to 91 or 92, we might only be talking about a 6 or 7 year period there. but I do think that is a period. And then I think that personally, I'd say that there's also there's the Silver Age, and then there's sort of a Bronze Age of the 70s and early 80s. There's a brief period in the in the 80s up to 90 that I think is very significant, and a lot of unique things happened there. And yeah, I don't know if this is generally acknowledged or not, honestly. Isn't the death of Gwen Stacy the start of the Bronze Age? I could definitely see that. Making sense. Something like that up to maybe 84, 85. But then I think that we get 91 to about 2000 is sort of a speculation age and a recovery from that speculation age. And then there's like the modern era, something like that. But you know what? That's really its own discussion. It would take quite a while to figure that one out. It's interesting. Who is the best Bat sidekick, and why is it Ace the Bat Hound? Hey, he's got a whole family around him, so respect for liking whoever you like. I would say that I'm a pretty big fan of Robin, and I could argue both Dick Grayson and Tim are great Robins. I don't know. No real comic scholar uses this division of gold, silver seriously. I don't know about that. I don't know. So let me bust out a little brush pen, and we'll start talking about some comic book news. And I did something to help with the visuals here. What? I've got a little presentation. So let's talk about the first news here, and that is that Stan Lee's former business manager was being prosecuted for allegedly having stolen over $200,000 from the late Stan Lee. It would have been a case of elder abuse and theft. But this gentleman, whose name is K.A. Morgan, he won the lawsuit. Basically, the jury deadlocked 11-1 in favor of Mr. Morgan. The judge decided that it was not worth having another trial, so it was declared a mistrial, and he dismissed the case, he said, in the interest of justice, which I guess I don't 100% understand, but maybe that's some sort of legal term in this regard. I don't know. The defense attorney, the guy representing K.A. Morgan, alleges that there is money missing, and it was money in cash, by the way, which I'll get back to in a sec. He alleges that it was Stan Lee's daughter, JC, that took the money. That's entirely possible, to be honest. It sounds like they had a bit of a contentious relationship. She was never really able to hold down her own job or career and lived off her dad. And I guess they argued quite a bit about money, unfortunately. Stan Lee's last days, no matter how you feel about him, are very sad. It definitely seems like everyone around him was exploiting him. In his last couple years, he was very likely dealing with some serious dementia, and people were still sending him to conventions to sign and stuff like that. It's not awesome. It's not awesome. He did not have a wonderful home life, I don't think. He had some people that cared about him, no question. It's not a pretty story to look at. And you realize that, I guess, the more money, more problems saying is somewhat accurate. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, no matter what you think of them. I wouldn't wish for them to have, family problems or problems with people trying to take your money. It's sad. What else do I have to say about this? Yeah, Stan Lee apparently dealt largely with cash And some people think that he may have been trying to avoid some income taxes, but he may have just been old school. It's hard to say for sure, especially where he's not here anymore. But I guess he really liked to be paid in cash. So that was a Stan Lee thing. It could be the tax thing. Don't underestimate the fact that this guy did grow up in the Depression. And, people, I think that definitely causes some anxiety about where money can come from and will you have access to your assets. Are Jack and Lily in my will yet? No, not yet. But they can have everything. Let's see. What was this? Comic book girl, I don't know which comic book girl, had mentioned in a podcast like 10 years ago that in person Stan looked like he was being forced to sit at cons. There's been articles about that. I think that's absolutely true. 11-1 is pretty convincing. Right. There was only one person that was like, no, I think that this guy stole the money. So of the people around Stan, it doesn't look like this guy was the worst of them. Stan loved being a con star. Well, I think he did up until towards the end. I think, he was older. He was tired. Comic Book Girl 19, a YouTuber. I think they mean. Oh, okay. I think I remember. I didn't know that person was still around. I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he loved it when he was younger, for sure. I don't think he loved it in the end. Let's see. True designations. DC officially gave. Okay, DC gave this. 35 to 55 is gold. Silver is 56 to 69. Bronze is 70 to 85. Modern is 86 to present. I would say that makes sense. The 86 to present is a long stretch that doesn't really account for how much the industry has changed in that time. I heard stories of Stan putting on the persona at cons, and as soon as fans left the rooms, he would just slump down. I heard that about his last couple years. I didn't hear about that for his whole life. I got to meet Stan and interview Stan. There's an interview on this channel that I did with him, and I find him an interesting person. I found him to be a kind person. I don't think he was perfect, but, I think that there was also a learning arc to how comics were made and what we wanted to do for creators' rights. So I'm not going to say that Stan was perfect, but I also personally don't think that he was a total monster. So I have I guess a bit of a nuanced take on Stan overall. But I think a lot of us do. What else do I have for news? Well, let's see what the next slide is. Image Comics is coming to libraries digitally. Hey, you know how we can use stuff like Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO Max? Well, just so you know, there is a digital app out there we all have access to. We pay our taxes, we being the US, I have to admit, but Library Pass is a way that you can get comics digitally because there's ebooks and stuff out there. It's awesome. We're talking free comics, free books. The free comics come through Library Pass's digital app, which is called, I think it's called Comics Plus. Okay. Well, they're partnered with a bunch of publishers. Not all of them. Like, I don't think Marvel and DC are on there, but Image has now partnered with them. So you can now read a bunch of these comics digitally. Look at these things. Saga, Paper Girls, Spawn, Invincible, The Walking Dead, Kick-Ass, Monstrous. Tons of big... Oh, I just hurt my arm doing that. Oh, that hurt real bad. Hold on. Oh, that's what I do. I need to get a brace that immobilizes my arm a little because I move it and I forget. It isn't hurting when I was just sitting here. But then I just made that big expression and oh my God, my rotator cuff. Oh, that hurts so bad. I almost want to cry. It hurts so bad. Whew. But I thought I would promote Comics Plus because if you don't have it, guys, why not? We're talking free comics. Why wouldn't you, right? It's nice to have Image on there because obviously there's a lot of popular books and it just helps. But there are other publishers. So this is a good way, I think, to discover new things. Maybe something people have mentioned and you're like, well, I don't know if I want to spend the money on that yet. Maybe you just want to see what else other creators have done. So I would strongly recommend both Library Pass and Comics Plus. I thought that was pretty exciting that Image got added to that. My sister's here. I didn't realize that. Nice to see you here, Jeanty. You don't want to immobilize it. That will make it freeze up and get worse. So you need PT. I am talking to get physical therapy. Do you want an ice pack? I think it would be very hard for me to keep it in place while I do the show. Chrissy, I appreciate hiccups. I appreciate that. I'll get an ice pack when I wrap up the show. Boy, that hurts. Yeah. Spawn, right? Don't worry. I've got a physical therapist that I'm going to be dealing with, so I'm good there. But thank you. If you have to call it early due to pain, no worries. No, I can tough it up. It just hurts. Yeah, you know what? I should take ibuprofen. If you wouldn't mind throwing some of those at me from off camera, I would accept that if you're up for giving me that. It's already starting to fade, folks. It doesn't but it's really sharp when I moved my other arm up like this high and moved it. I wasn't thinking. Boy, did that shoot some pain through me. I like this. Use cling wrap to hold the pack on. Old wrestling trick. Okay. Do I need Bucky Barnes' cybernetic arm? I would take them. Catch them in my mouth. Sure, why not? You guys deserve a show. What else do we have for news? Well, I obviously did not change this title, so let me do that on the fly. Ready? Oh, it won't let me edit it. All right. Pretend this title here says, instead of Image Comics comes to libraries digitally, pretend it says Chris Farley comic book biography, okay? And you see a little cover here called Growing Up Farley. We've got medicine coming from off camera. I'm going to get up and get some camera. I'm going to get some camera. I'm going to get some medicine. I'll be right with you, folks. Thank you. Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you very much. That's really nice of you. I'm sure it will help. I grew up at a time where I found Chris Farley to be a fairly iconic part of Saturday Night Live. And I think he sincerely would have had a big career if he hadn't died so young. He was looking to star in a drama about the life of Fatty Arbuckle. Look that up on something like Wikipedia or read a book. Fatty Arbuckle was a comedian that got blackballed out of Hollywood, and it's very sad. And Chris Farley, I think he could have done that justice. I think it would have changed his career path. If he was alive, he would have been the one, he voiced Shrek. They only hired Mike Myers because he hadn't recorded all the lines, he would have been Shrek. Chris Farley would have had, I think, a pretty big career, to say nothing of people wanting to see him do more, silly comedy type stuff. But he died young. Well, his brother, one of his brothers, Kevin, is going to be co-writing a comic book about his late brother's life. I've watched some documentaries and read some books about Chris Farley because I just find it very interesting. But I would love to read a comic book version, especially if it's written specifically by his family. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. This is going to come through Z2 Comics. They've done some other celebrity books. They did recently the Weird Al comic book, which is basically just sort of adaptations of his songs. By the way, the Weird Al movie on Roku, since it's free and all, it's worth your time. It's pretty darn funny. It's very silly, and it's good. Yeah. I think Fatty Arbuckle did do movies with Buster Keaton. I'm not an expert. I think he would have been living in a van down by the river. By the way, pretty iconic sketch, right? Most people know, maybe not everybody, but that was written by Bob Odenkirk, the star of Better Call Saul, because he and Chris Farley were both in Second City together in Chicago, and Bob Odenkirk wrote that sketch. And, of course, Odenkirk was briefly a writer at Saturday Night Live, so they brought that to SNL, and I would say that that's one that Farley's pretty well remembered for. Matt Foley, motivational speaker. I miss Chris Farley. I also really miss Phil Hartman, another great SNL cast member that died relatively young. Of course, in his case, it was murder, but yeah, they were on together. They were a good pair. They were a good pair. So anyway, this book about Chris Farley is coming out in fall of next year, so almost a year from now. Co-written with a comic book writer, Frank Marafino. I know he did. I know he's credited for Marvel Zombies. I'm sure he's done other stuff that I haven't read. Art by Ryan Dunleavy. Ryan's done tons of stuff. And it's going to be more about the period of Farley growing up in Wisconsin when he was younger and the impact that their father had on them. The Farley brothers loved their dad. Oh my God, they loved their dad so much. And their dad loved comedy. And these boys wanted to really please their dad. And that was, so they did sports and they did comedy. And it's going to get into that. And I think that if anyone could tell that story in a way that we haven't necessarily seen explained before, it would probably be Chris's brother. So I'm looking forward to that personally. That's something I will definitely pick up. I like Chris Farley and I find his life interesting. So a unique comic that I just thought I would mention. Hartman was excellent on Simpsons too. And you know what was the best idea I heard that would have been so good? Phil Hartman played Troy McClure, among other things, on The Simpsons. Troy McClure. Oh, hi, you might remember me from such movies as The Cat That Was Too Fat, things like that. I don't know how many people remember that now, but he played like this washed up actor. He was developing a live action movie based on Troy McClure. So we could have gotten a live action Simpsons spinoff, and I think it would have been so funny because they probably would have worked with some of the writers on The Simpsons who in seasons 1 through 5 were geniuses. That would have, I think, been a really funny movie. Really funny. Oh, yeah. Phil Hartman was great in the early stage shows of Pee-wee's Playhouse. Right. He's in the first movie. He co-created that character with Paul Reubens. Wrote for a lot of the HBO specials with Pee-wee Herman before there were movies and TV shows. Phil Hartman was great. And didn't he play like a sea captain as well on Pee-wee's Saturday morning show? I think so. Let's see. You've watched the Icons on Earth series from Vice on Simpsons? No, I don't know what that is. I definitely haven't seen that. Captain Carl. Captain Carl. Troy McClure. What might we remember him from? Well, you might remember him from Sad Man, the man who created Batman, but didn't get recognized for it. A documentary. Anyway. Carrie says, my drag queen Trixie Mattel was cosplaying Dr. Manhattan on her channel because she's reading graphic novels her boyfriend suggests. My algorithm is now overlapping. That sounds cool. Trixie Mattel as Dr. Manhattan. That could be a lot of fun. That's really cool. Oh, by the way, On my little impromptu live stream that I did this week, just because I realized it was Batman Day, my sister mentioned that a friend of hers had a son who had gone missing. Well, I just want to give you guys like closure there. Her son was he came home. He had run away. Too bad, but this is a happy ending. He's safe. He was gone for 4 days. Obviously, family was very worried about him, but just wanted to give you guys closure. If anyone here had seen that piece of news and was wondering, the kid's okay. Okay, he's stressed out about school and stuff like that, and he ran away, but he is okay. So anyway, that I would call a happy ending. Chimpanzee to chimpanzee. Oh, hi. You might remember me from Gorilla Squadron, Gorilla Island 6, and Apes A-Poppin'. Batman Day? What happened to Godzilla? Did I say Batman Day? I meant Godzilla Day, but I'm drawing Batman, so I might have messed up. Guess what? There's more news to come, including Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield returning as Spider-Man. Not as crazy as it might sound at first. Obviously, it was a big deal that we got to see all the live-action Spider-Man from the movies back on screen in the last Spider-Man movie. But according to the Cosmic Circus, I don't know how reliable it is, but according to them, they heard that there are discussions to include all 3 of the live-action Spider-Man guys into the either or possibly both Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse. So it may be more like a post-credits tag scene, something like that, having them in the Spider-Verse movies. They also said that Yuri Lowenthal could be in it. He does the voice of the PlayStation video game Spider-Man. And Josh Keaton and Christopher Daniel Barnes, they played Spider-Man in the animated TV shows Spectacular Spider-Man and that 90s Spider-Man cartoon, that they might also be in it. So that's a lot of different Spider-Mans that they might put in there. Let's see. They just announced Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk in Across the Spider-Verse. That's cool. That's cool to bring in Spider-Punk. Yeah. Are they making Spider-Man 4 with Tobey? No. That is past. In your professional opinion, why does everyone think that Black Adam would easily beat Zachary Levi Shazam? I don't know that everybody has said that. I would The Rock beat up Zach Levy? Probably, but I don't think that Black Adam would necessarily beat Shazam Captain Marvel. Hold on, I'm doing some very delicate line work here on Nightwing's butt. I started I wanted this documented that I started on Nightwing's butt here. Let me remove that. I'll show you my first lines. My first lines were on his butt. No to Yuri Lowenthal. Okay. Don't forget, Billy has family. That's a great point. That's a good point. Zoom and enhance. Yes. Do you think that zoom and enhance thing came from the Blade Runner movie? I think that's where that trope originated. Because at least then it was in the future, and he'd be like, Sector C-15, focus and enhance. And I was like, okay, sure, they have advanced cameras there. But then it just started becoming like crime shows, like CSI would be like, get that reflection of the car and enhance that. And somebody like types something and they're like, oh, yes, that's the person we're looking for. Interesting that I can reach up like this and it doesn't hurt. But if I reach out, there or very much higher, it hurts a lot. Tim, nice to see you here. I'm glad that you think I'm right. I think I'm right. Blade Runner, absolutely. I thought cops could do that in the 80s. No, they couldn't. The first Spider-Verse movie was supposed to include a cameo of Tom Holland, so I can see this rumor being truth. I'm sure that they'd want it to be, and I think it would probably be easier to get voice acting than full acting, so we'll see. In a Bond movie? I don't remember them ever enhancing video in a Bond movie. I'm a bit of a Bond expert. The scene you might be thinking of is, I believe it was 1983, the movie For Your Eyes Only. Bond gives a description of an assassin that he saw, and Q is typing it in, and it's creating a wireframe of what that man might look like. So it's a similar type of scene, but I don't think that they had a scene where they enhanced video. Love the community jokes where they're zooming and enhancing onto the instructions of how to download photos. Community's a very good show. I can't wait for that TV movie that they're making now. So that's cool. Enhance is Super Troopers for me. You know, I haven't seen Super Troopers, so I guess that one flew over my head. Oh, look at this. Patrick Mitchell just gave me enough that I can have dinner tonight. Let's see. Why I see Rock doesn't like Shazam. And I have a lot to say about that in one of the news items coming up, by the way. But in wrestling terms, he sees Billy as mid-tier babyface who isn't big enough name for him to fight, whereas Soups is the top babyface that will make The Rock seem equal to him. I absolutely think that there's some truth to that he sees certain things in wrestling terms like that. I totally do. Donald Glover is coming back for the movie. Oh, I didn't hear that was confirmed, but I'm glad to hear it. That's awesome. I would love to see some closure with that character, or all the characters, really. But folks, we're only on slide 5 of 12. Let's move on. Let's see. Hold on. Chris, is the original Casino Royale the best Bond movie? The original? No. Not that black and white one, no. But the Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, you could argue, could potentially be the best. It's very, very good. All right. Next. Look at this. Warner Discovery posts big financial loss. This is only sort of tangentially related to comics, I suppose, so I'm not going to spend too long on it. But obviously, Discovery bought Warner Brothers, which in turn owns DC Comics, and they make the superhero movies, or if they adapt anything from, say, Vertigo, that's all through Warner Brothers Discovery now. Well, they had their investors call this week. That's a quarterly thing they do. And yeah, their profits are non-existent because since April, when this merger happened, they've posted $29 billion in losses. That's half of the market's the market value originally. So yeah, they've taken a huge loss. I don't think you can blame all of that on, say, David Zaslav, because some of that is going to be fallout from just where things were, and also macroeconomic factors of overall where the film industry is and TV and stuff like that. So it's not, but it is relevant in the sense that, well, how does that impact potentially our comic book adaptation stuff, or things like DC Comics itself, because they're owned by that. Oh, Randy, lovely to have you here. Randy's already started fulfilling stuff. If anybody backed Bullet Adventures on Kickstarter, he's already started fulfilling some of the reward tiers. Yeah, that's almost half of Twitter. It's a lot. $29 billion since April. President David Zaslav said that where they want to focus their efforts to sort of rebound is in franchises. They want to make, I guess, a good Superman movie, for instance. Not that we have any specifics outlined, but they said that that's one thing they want to do. Another would be, they mentioned trying to do more Harry Potter movies. I don't know how realistic that is. Harry Potter's kind of done, I think. You could do stuff in that world, but I think you're kind of done with Harry Potter. I don't know. I guess it all depends how much money they're willing to wave in front of J.K. Rowling's nose, right? But yeah, let's see, like, if we get anything fast tracked based on how much they're hurting for Batman and Superman and stuff like that. I think James Gunn is going to end up being very, very busy as they're going to be pushing to get more superhero content out because it's profitable these days. We'll see. We'll see. They want to focus on the most profitable of blockbuster movies. What are the odds? But it's like what they're saying specifically is that they want to make franchises out of it, not just make a Superman movie. They want to build it to, like, I want 5 Superman movies, That's what they're talking about. But boy, you always want to worry about the concern of putting the cart before the horse, How about we've just focus on making one good Superman movie at a time, and if you can prove that you can do that, then maybe you can come back and do a Justice League movie. That might be the more sensible way to do things, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe a film where Al Yankovic goes to Hogwarts. Well, I would watch that. Again, I thought that Weird, the Al Yankovic story, was pretty darn funny. I don't know how many of you watched it, but you don't even need to download the Roku app or anything. You can literally just go to Roku.com and watch it for free. Now, there are commercials, but not too many commercial breaks. Not too many. It's just the way they decided to do it. Weird Al just seems like a nice guy. He seems like that. I hope that's the case. I choose to believe it's the case. What else do we have for news? Let's see. Make a Phantasm TMNT live action, and I might go crush a few cans. Let's talk. Yeah. DC Animated always treated like the adopted redheaded stepchild, despite it typically being better than the movies. I've heard that they've had some really good stories in the animated stuff. I haven't watched too many of the animated movies. He is. I met him when I was a teenager. For a minute, I thought, Tim, you were about to say I met Weird Al when he was a teenager, and I was like, you're not that old. Anyway, moving on. MoveOn.org. Sandman has been renewed. I almost did it to my arm again. As I started to move, I stopped from moving it too far. Thank God. I keep forgetting. You'd think that this would be a no-brainer because it did seem like it was getting a lot of talk on social media, but Netflix did not rush to renew season 2 of Sandman. I guess they wanted to be 100% sure, or like that there were good metrics for people finishing it, like retention type stuff. And sorry, I'm looking for my ruler while we talk. I want to like get a straight edge. Each episode of Sandman costs about $15 million, so that's not nothing. It's a pretty high budgeted show, and if you've watched it, you're like, yeah, they've got good special effects for sure. So they didn't make a fast decision, but it was confirmed this week. Season 2 is coming. Based on how much they adapted for the first season, which was basically the first 2 volumes of their trades and stuff, it's very, very likely that what they're going to do is get through Season of Mists this time, which is a very popular story arc. Definitely one of the best. That involves essentially Lucifer deciding to abdicate hell, giving the responsibility to Dream. Well, Dream already has the responsibility of, the dreamscape, so he has to find the next ruler of hell. It's a cool story. They also said that they will be including Delirium. That's the youngest of the Endless family. There's, Dream, there's Destruction, there's Death. And we met some of those in season 1. We'll get to meet Delirium. And a lot of people online are like, Neil, will you consider me? And Neil Gaiman had to actually say, like, guess what? You got to go through the casting director. He's like, I'm not the one that's going like, you got it, kid. You got the best cosplay. Season of Mists will be cool. I think so. Let's see. Patrick says, I wish they focused the CGI on more stylized look than what they went for. I could see that argument. Because they got some fairly stylized artists, didn't they? Sam Keith, Mike Dringenberg, fairly stylized. Maybe there's still room for something like that. But I think overall, people that like Sandman have to be pretty excited because it's a pretty loyal adaptation. I think that people should be pretty excited for that. How many people out here started Sandman, and how many of you finished Sandman? Let me know if you either started or finished so that we could just sort of get a very unscientific reaction here. Oh, yeah. The Shakespeare story, the one that I did my episode about. I would love to see that. Really? I thought the death was quite good. I'm surprised, but okay. Started and finished. Started, didn't finish. I need to finish. Watched it twice. Very impressive. Only started. Okay, that's okay. Finish. Haven't watched it. I finished the comic. Haven't started the series yet. Okay. Watched it all. Finish. I read the first couple-ish and saw the first episode. Do we need to leave if we didn't do the assignment? This is no assignment. It's just curious. Watched all of it. You know, I do know. I want to, but haven't started. Well, EJ, I mean, I know how busy you are. You've got kids. You've got your comics. Like, I know some of us are very, very busy. I haven't watched it yet. I want the time to watch it all in one go. You know what? I would say that it actually, you don't necessarily need to binge it. I mean, it could be pleasurable but that way, but each episode sort of does tell a complete story. So you could watch it and like take breaks if you needed to. Thought Sandman adaptation was great. Despair was a bit weak. Okay, well, everybody's a critic. Finished. Okay, finish. This is a fair amount of finished and a lot of people that at least started it. That's really cool. I started and finished the Sandman comic. Very cool. Very cool. I read the series, still haven't watched the show. Hey, I'd rather everybody reads the comics because I love the comics and I think that they're great. But yeah, let's see. Watched it all, finished the show, haven't seen but read Sandman to death. Okay, well, you might want to check it out. I think it's a pretty interesting take on it. I didn't start since I don't have Netflix currently. All right. Well, one of your family members must have the login information, right? All right. Wow. Tons of responses to this. Like, a lot of people did finish it. This is great. Watched it all. Loved it. Okay. Got to move forward. Cause I'm way behind. What's your personal favorite story in Sandman? Great question, Andrew. And I think that, I think it is the Shakespeare adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream. I felt like it included just enough horror and some interesting meta commentary. That's why I chose to do my analysis on that episode. Season of Mists, though, is pretty darn good. I will say that. I also like that story of Dr. Destiny in the diner for 24 hours. That's pretty scary. Ramadan, sure, that's a good one. Do I think that do you think they underused Destiny and Despair in the comic? No. It's all about Dream ultimately, and so his family gets used sparingly, and I think that's okay. Doll's House is great. Yep. I love A Game of You. Totally get that. I feel like I have 200 shows on my watch list. I do too. I don't get to I still haven't finished either House of Dragon or Rings of Power. All I can say is the one that like I don't miss is Andor. And every episode I've enjoyed Andor more and more. It started in a place where I was like, cool, this is interesting. More interesting than maybe I was expecting. And then it just kept getting better and cooler. I really like Andor as far as genre shows out there go. Yeah, I definitely put Andor high up there in terms of what I'm enjoying. Do you guys have a favorite Batman artist? There's so many different interpretations of Batman. It's a tough one to answer. I'm liking Quantum Leap. Okay. Neil Adams, sure. Marshall Rogers, solid. Jim Aparo, he might be mine too. Norm Brayfogle, sure. Greg Capullo, not surprised to see him in there. Jim Lee, got it. And or what? That's what I keep making the joke. It's so silly. Neil Adams. Daniel, nice to see you. Are you still in Japan right now? If so, wow, what a time difference. Thanks for being here. Alex Ross. Wow, okay. Bruce Timm and Michael Cho. Yep, Michael Cho's very good. Jim Aparo. I love Jim Aparo. Who is subjectively the worst? Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. Jason Fabok is your favorite. Darwin Cook. Darwin Cook's Ego is a great Batman story. Very, very good. Mazzucchelli. Sure. Love Mazzucchelli. Love Mazzucchelli. Aparo deserves more love. I need to do an episode about Jim Aparo. Loved Jim Aparo's Batman growing up. Loved it. John Byrne. Okay. Kelly Jones. Yep. Alan Davis. Batman Year 2, right? Yeah, that was good. Brayfogle. Michael Keaton didn't draw it. He played Batman. Chrissy. Trolling me. Kelly Jones. Yep. David Mazzucchelli. EJ says, Andor is awesome. I didn't have interest in watching it, but it was one of the best Star Wars movies ever. Isn't it? You know what's cool about Andor? I'll just sidestep and say it really shows you in a more relatable way how bad the Empire was as a government, how evil they were. We sort of get told that. We see soldiers shooting at our good guys, but we don't necessarily see how they oppress people until we see Andor. And it's really interesting. I like that, yeah. Would you all kill me if I say Neil Adams? Not surprised at all. Neil Adams, Bruce Timm, Katsuhiro Otomo. Yes, he did do that black and white story. That's fair. Bob Kane? Okay. Oh, for the worst. Okay. Kelly Jones. Jerry Robinson. Come on down. Literally, this question is too hard to answer. Then don't feel obligated to answer it. Don't feel obligated. Mazzucchelli, Jorge Jimenez, Tony Daniel, Darwin Cook, Tim Sale, Mike Mignola. Oh, there's a good one. Dan Brereton. Oh, back in Sweden from the Japan trip. But I might get back soon to Japan since I loved being there. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I really wish I could go there soon. Paul Gulacy, McFarlane. Yeah. If only Alex Toth had drawn Batman comics. Alex Toth did do Batman in Batman Black and White. So he does a great one. Jock. Yep. Kelly Jones, Norm Brayfogle, Dick Sprang, Tony Daniels, Bob Kane. Wow. All right. This will go forever. Bartman. What the? Oh, Michael Golden. Yep. Matt Wagner. See, we keep thinking, well, we've listed all the top ones, right? And then somebody's like, no, how about the Michael Golden version? Frank Miller. I'm here. I'm late. That's okay. There's no quizzes. Let's move on to the next piece of news. We've got somebody here. We'll go on to another piece of news. Chainsaw Man has surpassed One Piece as the most popular manga. That's a big deal. It really is. One Piece, I'm not talking in terms of overall sales. That would be crazy. One Piece has been around for 25 years. But One Piece has been the most popular shonen or boys manga forever. And we're just getting some statistics that are showing us that it might be getting dethroned, specifically by Chainsaw Man for right now. And I'm basing this off of this image here, which is showing the views, the total views from the Manga Plus Reader, which is a pretty popular app for reading manga. And it's showing that Chainsaw Man is up to 866,000 views versus One Piece's only 788,000. Obviously, that's not a massive difference, because the next one is like Naruto at like in the 500s. So, but look at that. One Piece has been around a lot longer. Chainsaw Man is relatively new, and it surpassed it. That's a pretty good indication of how popular it is. Why is it popular right now? Couple things that I list here. Chainsaw Man was on hiatus for almost 2 years while the creator did some different short-term manga stories. So the second big part of the storyline has now started. That's a big factor. And the anime adaptation began this past October. So those are probably two factors that have helped push Chainsaw Man forward. All I can say is that, like, at comic conventions and stuff, I've definitely been seeing plenty of Chainsaw Man cosplay. So, yeah, if you haven't read it, Chainsaw Man is pretty fun. It reminds me a little of, like, a more lighthearted Devilman, something along those lines. Devilman is actually pretty darn dark. Yeah. Reading Chainsaw Man Volume 3 in line to vote. Good for you for voting. That's great. That's really great. I feel Demon Slayer did the same a couple years ago. Demon Slayer is also humongous, just to be clear. It's humongous. Chainsaw Man is huge. Really fun series. Exactly. It's fun. Have I played the Infamous on PS3? Yeah, definitely. That was the one where you get to be like a super villain, right? Yeah. My friend Chuck did the what do you call it? All of a sudden I'm forgetting. But like when you've got like the health bar and the stats and stuff on the screen, the user interface. He worked on that for Infamous 2. And I helped get Phoenix Jones is in Infamous 2 because that's made by a local development company, and Phoenix Jones is our local superhero, and I know Phoenix Jones. I know Chuck, who worked at the company, and they wanted to put Phoenix Jones on like posters and stuff in the background, so I helped coordinate that. Yeah, you're not that Chuck, I know. Let's see. Ever thought of doing a video on Go Nagai? Absolutely, have considered it. I probably will at some point. Infamous needs a new adaptation. Great story. Yeah, definitely. I read Chainsaw Man in its entirety, and yeah, it's pretty dang good. I'm waiting for the English dub of the anime to come out. Sure. All right, thanks for stopping by, Axel. What do I think about Go's Devilman? It's surprisingly dark, which you like. The thing about it is the art style is very cartoony and deceptively simple. And you can make a judgment there going like, oh, well, this is like for a younger audience or something, right? No, it's so dark. It's so adult. So yeah, I do like it. I think that it's an interesting and very influential comic book. It's very influential. I read Devilman, and I can definitely see that it inspired parts of Berserk, one of my favorite mangas. So yeah, I'll always respect it for that. What else? Devilman goes hard. It does. Mazinger Z is quite dark too. Yeah, he did some dark stuff. Cutie Honey, I guess, is fairly funny. It was the 70s, and Gekiga was really big. Tezuka did a lot of really dark manga. Yep. Yeah, maybe I should talk about that at some point, like the rise of Gekiga. Gekiga. Ugh, terrible at pronunciation sometimes. The creator of Chainsaw Man must be really bitter and sad with this news. Must be. Let's move on. let's move on. Whoops. That wasn't what I meant to do. Let's add that back. And we'll go to the next piece of news here. Let's talk about what is in the thumbnail. What's in the header? The Rock dislikes Shazam. Well, what does that mean? There's some evidence that The Rock actively does not want to have Black Adam meet or face Shazam in the movies. And that he has taken some steps to make sure that that does not happen. This comes from The Wrap, and they reported that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and his producers, we're talking his ex-wife Dani Garcia and Hiram Garcia, still works with them, they have tried to do what they can to actively distance Black Adam and Shazam, keep them separate, which is only weird because they are enemies in the comics, at least when Black Adam was a bad guy. I mean, they're associated with each other. They both get their powers from the wizard Shazam. There's a lot that they share in comic book history. Shazam, the first movie, the Captain Marvel movie called Shazam with Zachary Levi, originally had a post-credit scene where Shazam and his brothers and sisters all sit on chairs at the Rock of Eternity, and they realize that there's one empty seat, that there's one more person with the powers out there. And I guess the Garcias and Adam and Dwayne went to Warner Brothers and said, we want you to cut that scene because it's going to conflict with Black Adam. We don't want you to mention Black Adam. And they were like, okay. So you can find that scene online, but it was cut from the actual theatrical release. The Wrap got an insider with this quote: Dwayne Johnson's thinly veiled disdain for Shazam means he probably isn't loving the idea that his boss is now the guy that produces Shazam. What do they mean by that? By boss, they mean Peter Safran. James Gunn and Peter Safran were both now installed as the CEOs of DC, the DC Studios. Peter Safran is one of the producers of the Shazam movies, including the upcoming one, Fury of the Gods. So he would have a very active say in potentially putting them together. I think Shazam and versus Black Adam sounds way more interesting to me than Black Adam versus Superman. But obviously, The Rock is actively pushing for Black Adam versus Superman. If you've seen Black Adam, there are hints towards that. Johnson originally signed on to play Black Adam in the Shazam movie, and then he slowly was like, you know what? You've got a great script. Why don't you go do Shazam? We're going to do Black Adam. It's going to be its own thing. And so that slowly happened. Yeah, Black Adam was hinted at with the Wizard Shazam, did sort of mention that there was a previous failed champion, but they cut a certain scene that made it more explicit. Exactly. Black Adam is a Shazam character. I think so. Yeah, Black Adam versus Superman would suck because The Rock wouldn't take a loss. That would be very bad. If anyone should win a fight, it's Superman. Somebody just said it earlier, and I do worry that The Rock looks at this in wrestling terms. I need to fight the biggest money drawer, and that would be, Superman. So if I could beat Superman, it would show that my character's that much tougher. I don't know for a fact that is his logic or not. I hope it is not, because I don't think that translates on a fictional character level the same way it does in the wrestling ring. I don't know. If Shazam versus Superman is fine, but I guess I feel like if you've created a cinematic Shazam and a cinematic Black Adam, I would actually like to see them go up against each other before, they all are like, yeah, we all work for the JSA. I don't know. the Joaquin Joker is definitely not facing Batman. Well, that's true, but that's very much a separate universe, isn't it? This would be like if Joaquin Phoenix refused to be on screen with Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Here's something different, but I love acknowledging super chats because they help me afford food. Thank you, Andrew Jefferson. What's my favorite Studio Ghibli film? That's not an easy one to answer. Let's see. I just started watching them chronologically, not looking forward to Grave of the Fireflies. That is definitely a sad movie. I think my favorite that I usually think of is Spirited Away. I really do like Spirited Away a lot. But I could be convinced by a lot of different movies depending on the day. You know, the nice thing is that Ghibli makes some great movies. I loved going to the Ghibli Museum. I would love to go back. This isn't the WWE. You can't be the anti-hero and win every fight in comic films. Exactly. Black Adam has become basically a hero in the comics. So I am okay with that. They came up with a story and it makes sense. But if he fought Shazam and definitively won, I don't really feel like that's right. You know, I feel like, no, Shazam should win that battle. Definitively. Because he's a more pure-hearted champion. So he should be able to basically triumph through willpower. Something along those lines. And, you know, be rewarded for his decency. It shouldn't be an easy battle, but if they were to have a fight, I think Shazam should win. That's what I would think. A lot of different Studio Ghibli movies being mentioned in here. So, yeah, I get that. Timeline-wise, when do you think superhero movies will calm down and not be the main blockbuster movies of the current popular culture? 5 years, 10 years? I'm burnt out by them. I could understand that. How long do I think that they... Yeah, something else will become more popular at a certain point, but there are factors outside of just how good they are as to like what could be the next big thing in movies. If Harry Potter came along right now, maybe supernatural or young adult book adaptations could dethrone superheroes, but they've already come. It does have to be something big that appeals to people worldwide. And I think superhero movies probably still have at least another 10 years of being the dominant force. I really do. I really do. Still haven't seen Black Adam because I'm upset The Rock didn't bother to wear hair. I think he used to be passionate and now he's just throwing his weight around to get what he wants. I worry about that sometimes. I didn't think Black Adam was a bad movie, and I certainly didn't think it was a bad movie because of The Rock. In fact, I would argue, honestly, that Black Adam needed more Black Adam, that they filled it up with some supporting characters that were necessary for plot mechanics and motivations, but that they focused a little too much on some of those supporting characters, whereas some of that screen time should have been focused more on Black Adam and what's going on with him. Just my 2 cents. Ultimately, it was not a bad movie, but also the fact that it's been in the works for so long, I felt like there's no excuse for you not having basically a perfect script at this point in time. You know, you've had basically 15 years to get it right. So there's no excuse. And it was fine, but I would say that like you should have done better than fine. If that makes sense. Superhero movies still need to get the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and the DC Universe done right. 12 to 15 years more. Yeah, as long as they do them right. You know, if Marvel or DC really drops the ball, yeah, maybe superheroes end early. but there's still a lot of things that people haven't seen done well that could be very, very popular. Fantastic Four and X-Men, yeah. I think that it's almost impossible that they would adapt Captain Nazi just because of the name, unless they called him something else. I don't know. Do they think they're going to forget about that Mr. Mind stinger? No, I think that like Mr. Mind would probably be like movie 3. Black Adam versus Paste Pop Pete for Black Adam 3. That's fine. I think that that's a good idea. Finally, the Marvel DC crossover that fans have demanded. But, almost hurt my arm there. I gave it a twinge. Here's the thing. I will play Black Adam. Let me take that back. I will not play Black Adam. Rewind time. I will play Paste Pot Pete in the first Marvel versus DC crossover movie. As long as A, I go up against The Rock's Black Adam, and B, I can't lose that fight. Those are my demands. Paste Pot Pete will fight Black Adam on the silver screen. It'll be what everybody demanded and dreamt of. But there's no way that I'm gonna lose. There's no way I'm gonna lose. I will beat him, and then I will surrender, and Black Adam can get the victory that way. That's a good point, Connor. That sort of was Captain Nazi's role, wasn't it? The Wonder Woman movie it was set in World War I, so there were no Nazis, and it did have that high-ranking German officer. And he did sort of have like super strength thanks to Dr. What's her name? Dr. Poison? I forget her name right now. But he did sort of fulfill a lot of the same role there. He did. I hope he doesn't spill his pot of paste. That's how I lose, is I beat Black Adam, but then I trip on my own and I spill my paste and I realize, you know what? If it kept going in the fight, then I won't win. So that's when I surrender. I say, you win. The hierarchy of power in the DC and Marvel universe is about to change. I love that I actually have gone on with this gag enough that I wore a Paste Pot Pete costume for the Halloween show last week, and that people are still joking about it because, look, could I see the Trapster being used on, say, a Disney Plus Marvel show? Maybe. Do I think that Paste Pot Pete will ever be in the movies? No, not realistically. Do I think I will ever be an actor in a movie? No, not realistically. But I love to pretend yeah, of course. Paste Pot Pete. I'm going to be in the movies. Are you excited for Avatar: The Way of Water? Honestly, no. I'm not excited for it. I would say that I'm going to see it. It's a big movie. I've got, the AMC stubs is what it's called, so that you can see up to 3 movies a week on it. So I do see a lot of movies. That's the one thing I allow myself with a little bit of free time is to see, not every week, but usually I'll see a movie. I see movies pretty regularly. That's the one thing I sort of allow myself. So I'll see it, but am I excited for it? No, Avatar never connected with me personally in a big way. I know it's a huge movie. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I just found it pretty average. I saw it once in the theater. I've never rewatched Avatar. I don't know. So am I excited for it? I couldn't honestly say I'm excited for it, but I'll see it. I'm interested. We'll call it that. Andrew, thank you. That was me last week. I was in a Paste Pot Pete outfit. I know. That was actually me, yeah. Thank you for the super chat. There's an alternate universe somewhere where Chris won an Oscar for his performance as Paste Pot Pete. My father. I just want to make my father proud. He was a man that knew his glues. And all I want to do is prove to him that I can also make good paste. Daddy, I can make paste. Anyway, You're welcome. Your father is still alive. Oh, well, yeah, in real life. I was playing Paste Pop Pete. I don't know where I drew that from, but bravo. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. If someone uses Paste Pop Pete, it's James Gunn. Yeah, but he's Marvel. He's Marvel. That's the problem. For a second, I thought Chris hurt his shoulder again, but it was really just his Oscar acceptance speech for Paste Pop Pete. I am weeping. There, look at all these tears and applause. Father. I want to make paste. The world won't let me make paste, but I can do it. And I will do it. I'll bring the world paste. I'll fill a whole pot full of paste. I don't know what I'm doing. Transformative. Peter Travers of the Rolling Stone calls it a performance and hails it as rated PG-13. Other critics claim it's a movie. Let's see. That your channel has the energy I wanted for that class. Big fan. Keep it up. Okay. Paste Pot Pete versus the Mandalorian. Popping your peas. Paste Pot Pete pops his precious peas. Sorry, that probably didn't sound great. That probably didn't sound great. Thank you for being here, Gene. You're nice. Tell you what, how about some more news? This one, we're going to go... Jesus. Here's a transition for me. I was just being silly. I didn't realize I was going to bring up such serious news. Okay, we're going to talk about something serious, but you know what? I think a lot of people loved this guy, Kevin O'Neill. Kevin O'Neill, we learned, passed away. I learned it today. I think he passed away last week. That has not been made clear in any of the articles that I have read yet. But Kevin O'Neill was a great British artist. Very unique voice. I just think it, like, we love these guys. We want to give them their props. I know a lot of people liked Kevin O'Neill. He was 69. I don't consider that old. So I'm, he actually began drawing comics as young as 16. Look at that. 16. He was working on like funny comics in newspapers and stuff. Some of the books you would know him from. Well, I've got this image here. Martial Law. Great satire of superhero stuff. Satire of American politics as well. Written with Pat Mills, collaborator that he did a lot of stuff with. That was published through Marvel's Epic imprint in the mid-'80s. Really cool book. The kind of thing I'd love to do an episode on about at some point. But that's a big one that he was known for. Over in the UK, he did a book called Nemesis the Warlock, sort of a big high fantasy series I think that was published in 2000 AD. A lot of people know him for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with Alan Moore. A lot of people do. Kevin O'Neill, amazing artist. Absolutely. Jim, nice to have you here. Kevin O'Neill's work is so damn great, very unique and original. Much respect to this brilliant artist and storyteller. He will be missed. You know what was great? I called his artwork today uncompromising. And I mean that in a couple different ways. First of all, he has a very unique angular style. I wouldn't call it traditional. And yet he worked on plenty of pretty successful books that I would say are, mainstream. Marvel published Martial Law. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was huge. He did a great, like only 12 pages, but very influential Green Lantern story with Alan Moore. Let's say, Tari, thank you so much. It was announced today, but I've heard that it might have happened up to a week ago and that we're just finding out today. That's what I heard in some reports on it. So, because I don't know exactly how he passed away, unfortunately. I loved martial law. Probably shouldn't have been reading it as a kid, but I loved it. I don't know. I think, satire is good to read at a young age. It's violent, but it's satire. He will be greatly missed. I have one other thing here in like this news article. Comics Code Authority literally wouldn't approve the Green Lantern story that he and Alan Moore did. I believe that was Tales of the Green Lantern Corps #2. It was an annual. And oh yeah, it's Marshall with 1 L. Sorry, I put 2 L's in there. Can I delete that? No, I can't edit this. Sorry. Yeah. The Comics Code Authority was like objected to the story. And so DC is like, tell us the objection. What's the problem? And the Comics Code Authority said, it's literally the overall artwork. We just object to it in general. It's like, what? You object to a whole artist's style? It's that, I don't know. I don't know what word I'm looking for. It's that controversial, or it's that scary or something. Like, what is it about? Like, they couldn't say. So you know what? DC published it without the Comics Code stamp. They were like, this is a good story. We're going to publish it. And it was a good story. And honestly, I think that Jeff Johns went back and used a lot of it for his, various colored lantern stories. Like I think he definitely mined that particular story. It was called Tigers. That was the name of it. Tigers with a Y. I just remembered that. It's a good one. It's a good comic. Anyway, but I thought that was wild, like the Comics Code Authority is literally going to just sort of say, yeah, we just object to this art in general. What? That's just too crazy. That's just too much. He was an iconoclast in some ways, I guess you could say. So I thought it was worth mentioning so that we could sort of, in the chat, like I know people are mentioning various comics that they liked that he did, and yeah, just nice to remember artists like that when something sad like this happens. Give them their due. Try to be respectful of them and stuff. Yep, that's where Saddam Yacht originated. Nemesis was gloriously grotesque. Yeah, and so were some of the monsters in that Green Lantern story I'm talking about. It's a shame Alan Moore never got to write for Marvel. Maybe one day. Well, he did write for Marvel. He wrote Captain Britain. Got it down here somewhere. It was Marvel UK, but he did. That's still Marvel. Anyway. Kevin O'Neill. If you don't know him, obviously a lot of people do, but if you don't know Kevin O'Neill, I definitely would recommend some of these books that I mentioned here. Martial Law and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Neither of those are too huge. They're pretty easy to get into and see what he did that was kind of unique. Yeah. Cool. Ecuador. Nice to have you here. According to Gosh Comics London, he passed last week from a long illness. Gosh Comics, I know for a fact, has had Kevin O'Neill as a guest at their store for signings, so they would probably know more than, say, me. So that's nice to see. Yeah. Nice to see in the sense that we know a little bit more. I don't mean like that the news itself is nice. It's obviously super depressing. But thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Let's see. Alan Moore actually stopped writing for Marvel because Marvel tried to block Miracle Man from being published. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff with Alan Moore in comics. He has every right not to want to do comics anymore. Let's move on to another piece of news. This one is something I'm excited for. This is very, personally, I'm excited for it. Swamp Thing Green Hell. man, the first issue of this came out back in December of 21. And I remember talking about it on this show. I was like, this comic's awesome. It's a Black Label comic. It's set in like a post-apocalyptic future where there's hardly any people left alive. And, you know, the rot, you know, the black, the green, and the red are all like, yeah, maybe we need to like do away with humanity. It deals with Swamp Thing basically sort of being resurrected to protect them against an evil Swamp Thing. Constantine, as a really, really old man, is in it. Written by Jeff Lemire. He did a great job on Swamp Thing in New 52. One of the highlights of New 52. Doug Mahnke. I love Doug Mahnke's work. Love it. I remember reading his stuff in The Mask in the 90s, early 90s, I think. Actually, it might have even been late 80s now that I'm thinking about it. Shit, when did The Mask come out? But he was great on that. Right from the beginning, I was like, oh, I like his stuff. I remember there was a really funny book he did at DC early on called Major Bummer. I think that was what, yeah. Really good. Anyway, great creative team. It was going to be a 3-book series. And then I was like, at a certain point, I was like, where's book 2? I understand it's late, but like, where is it? Well, for a while, I was thinking that like DC had quietly just like pulled it and it wasn't going to be there. But no, fortunately, it was something else. Jeff Lemire posted an update on his Substack in his latest post. Here's his quote. This is from Jeff Lemire's pen. Major Bummer sounds depressing. No, it's about a real slacker guy that gets superpowers. That's all. He's a slacker. It's funny. Swamp Thing Green Hell is not dead, just gestating. Series artist Doug Mahnke needed to take some time off this past year due to personal family stuff, but he is back in action and producing new pages at a torrid pace. Issue 2 and 3 of this DC Black Label book will be published in 2023 and will act as a coda to my Animal Man run, as well as telling a complete Swamp Thing story. He also included a couple pages in his Substack. I don't feel like it's my place to share that. Like you might want to subscribe to his Substack or to see something like that. But I'm very excited. I think that those are two great creators. The premise was badass. The execution was scary, and Swamp Thing works very well as horror. It was cool. So if you can find issue 1, I really do recommend hunting it out. And yeah, it's really cool. Can someone explain to me what Substack is? Is it basically Patreon? Not quite. It's a newsletter, more or less, an online newsletter that you can subscribe to. And you can donate to it. Some people also make some of their posts available without paying to subscribe. So think of it maybe more like something closer to Tumblr or LiveJournal. But you can subscribe to it and you'll get like emailed if there's an update. And you can post art in it. So you can also like have comics in there. And a lot of writers will give sort of behind the scenes play-by-play on their story, as well as giving the comics. Like there will be like an outlet for the comics themselves. So it's all sorts of, it's like an online magazine, maybe an online magazine. It's cool. It's cool. It's pretty easy. Gotta go. Okay. Thanks for stopping by. Swamp Thing is one character I'd love to illustrate a comic one day. Such a brilliant character. It looks cool. It looks cool. Are these going to be magazine-sized issues? Yeah, it is oversized. It is. It looks cool. Chris, let's see. Arcudi and Mahnke started The Mask in 1989. I knew it was like real close there because as soon as I said 90s, I was like, it might have even been right at the tail end of the 80s. Yeah. Do you think Black Label is the new version of Vertigo? I mean, it basically is, but it doesn't have as much creator-owned stuff. It's more just like mature versions of their comic book characters. My favorite comic-related Substacks are Chip Zdarsky and Tom Brevoort. I could understand that. Yeah. Ed Piskor Swamp Thing when Ed Piskor, hey, let's give him a bigger challenge. Let's put Ed on Man Thing. Let's make a good Man Thing comic. I love the oversized format issues they do. Me too. Me too. It's supposed to be Vertigo, but was really unique at the time. Okay. I've got one more piece of news. I hope. Hey, if you stayed here this long, you're like, yeah, I'm here for another piece of news, Chris. Yeah, you are. And it's going to be not as exciting as the news with like Black Adam or Stanley or Swamp Thing. But Whatnot. Whatnot is two separate things. There is Whatnot Publishing, which does comics. There is also the Whatnot app, which sells collectibles and comic variants and stuff like that. They are under the same company, but apparently they are separate. Well, that separation did lead to them angering some comic shops, apparently. Next week is the release of Ninja Funk #1 by Whatnot Publishing. Cool. I don't know these writers, but JPG, I don't know if that's supposed to be JPEG or if that's initials, Paris and Steve Shewitt, artist Alex Regal. 100,000 copies, apparently. Okay, that's something we're talking about, right? And look at that. Some sweet Jim Mahfood art there. Exactly. He did one of these variant covers here. 100% respect. Love Jim. Talented artist. But here's what Whatnot did, apparently. The print edition was delayed. It was supposed to come out, I think, this past week or something. Jim recognizes his own work. Oh, hey, that's my Ninja Funk variant cover right there. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So Ninja Funk was supposed to come out at the same time digitally and print and et cetera, with these variant editions. But the print edition of the regular book that would come to comic book stores got delayed, okay? And then, but unfortunately, like a bunch of the variants and stuff became available on the Whatnot app. Well, now the Whatnot app people are selling the comic, competing against the comic book stores who don't have their inventory yet. And they're like, you couldn't have like waited since we got hit with the delay. The co-publisher of Whatnot Publishing, Kevin Rodatelli, did issue a statement. So I'll just say he told this to Bleeding Cool. He said, the unexpected delay to retail shops is disappointing for everyone, including our creative team, who planned out a really great first day release celebration originally intended to increase awareness of the book's release at local comic shops across the country and mark the occasion. Anyway, so I guess they somehow didn't, I don't know. It sounds like the left hand wasn't talking to the right hand in this specific situation. But if they're going to be doing these like variants and stuff like that and getting into this app game, I don't know that you want to necessarily compete with the comic shops. I think you got to find a way to go hand in hand with them and find a way to work together. And I don't know. I would have considered delaying the variant releases. There's a lot of variant covers, by the way. Of course, the one that we all want is the Jim Mahfood one, right? Andy Kuhn giving props to Alex Regal. And I don't know his work yet, so I'm not sure. I think it was a contractual thing where they just couldn't delay it. Well, maybe, but if so, like then that's a problem with the contract, because you got to think ahead that there could be like a delay on one end or the other, and it should work hand in hand. I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't completely understand Whatnot's model. I don't. And Jim tried to explain some of it to me in person, and I still don't get it, Jim. I don't quite get it. Because I'm like, okay, so they're making variant covers? No, they're also publishing comics. Okay, so they're a comic book publisher. Well, yeah, but they also do like collectibles and stuff. I'm like eBay? Like, well, sort of, maybe more like Macari, but they also sell NFTs. What? I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm too dumb. I'm too dim. They reached out to me recently. No, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. Never mind. They didn't reach out to me. I want to understand. They had a big presence at New York Comic Con. I'll tell you that. But their booth was like these claw machines giving out prizes. I was like, huh? Where are the comics? So I'm very, very confused as to what their overall mission statement is. That's what would be helpful, is if I could go on their website and read like a mission statement of what they are trying to do. That would be very helpful. We'll see. NFT tropes? No, none from me. Not me. Massive presence, bigger booth than Marvel. I don't know if it was bigger than Marvel, but they had a big one. We'll forget what you said. I mean, forget that you said nothing. I mean nothing. Just to be clear, they did not approach me about making NFTs. They did not do that, so I'm not saying that. Speaking of variants, any update on my Vampirella cover? I've got a couple little details that I need to sit down and finish art-wise, but I basically drew it, and then like I'll be double check. I need to get it colored. I need to hire a good colorist. But yeah, I'm doing a couple different things with Dynamite right now. They're nice to work with. They're nice to work with. I'm going to pull something up related to what you just asked. Give me a sec here. Where was it? I'll just show you what it looks like right now. Didn't I have a picture of it? I thought I had a picture of it. Maybe I don't. I thought I did. I've got a lot of pictures of my kittens. Here, let me take away this and temporarily take away this. And I'll, wait, no, this and that. And I'll go like, is that, oh, that's not going to show up, is it? All right, so I'll have to put it under here. This is the best I can do for you right now. So we've got like, I've got like basically a King Kong-esque gorilla holding a Vampirella. It's going to be an homage. It's like a cover to an homage to, yeah, like Perez's classic Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff. And actually, I need to touch this up. So there I am, and I'm going to be mentioning cover tropes. I'm like, death, guest stars, gorillas. I need to add homage. That was where it all started. So I'm going to add like homage, and I'm going to like have the credit and everything. But yeah, so we've got like Draculina back there and Pantha. So a couple sexy ladies there with Vampirella, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yeah, talking to a couple people that could potentially color it, and we'll see what happens. Let's see. There's this new comic book super universe that uses NFTs. As far as I know, there's tons of them because they have all contacted me about doing ads. I was recently rereading my Harris Comics Vampirella. All right, right on, right on. That was everything I had for news this week. Hopefully some of that was interesting, intriguing to all of you. Let's see where I'm at with this like little inking experiment here. My weak little art. Trying to get better all the time. Having trouble with that. What else have you guys heard about in comics this week? Or did you pick up any comics that I didn't review that you think are exceptional? That you would give a recommendation to? Always curious about stuff like that. I'll tell you this, drawing each week has, I think, improved my ability to draw hands a bit. I don't think I'm quite very good at hands, but I feel like I'm getting better by drawing them every week. I hope so, anyway. I know I've got a long ways to go. Let's see. Quick Stops. Okay. Yep. Just read Chainsaw Man. It's a pretty fun book, right? Bird King was pretty cool. I don't know Bird King. Behold Behemoth. I do want to pick that up. I didn't see it at my store, but I do want to pick up Behold Behemoth. I've been rewatching Jersey Shore, and I think JWoww would be a great Vampirella if she smoked and drank Vegas bombs, I guess. Yeah, okay. Let's see here. I'm almost done with my 24-hour comic that I started in October. You experience time at a different pace than I do. Anyone rewatch V last weekend? No. Remember the 5th of November. Kevin Smith basically doing stories from in between his films. If you're not a fan of the movies, you won't like the comic. I watched Clerks 3 last night, and it was fine, I guess. Definitely more of a drama than a comedy, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, but I don't know what I was expecting, to be fair. I don't know. I don't have anything against Kevin Smith, but I haven't really found anything that he's done super funny in a while. I think he has done funny stuff, but it's been a while since I've really laughed at something he's done. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a jerk by saying that. I'm just trying to give my honest opinion on stuff. Let's see. Read Nice House on the Lake. I like that book. I like that book a lot. I did pick up Boom's Damn Them All. It seems interesting, doesn't it? Hold on. Catching up on stuff here. Oh, my goodness. I missed a lot of things. First comics released in English edition of Miyazaki's Shuna's Journey. Oh, yeah? I didn't know about that. That's cool. That's very cool. There's a great new box set of early Tank Girl I picked up this week for my birthday. All right. Yeah. Tank Girl. Very cool. Very cool. Let me see that Nightwing full screen, baby. All right. Give me a sec. I will do that. Mike, always nice to see you here. Mike has been somebody I've known. Geez, I guess we must be familiar with each other for over 20 years now, Mike. Very, very talented artist, by the way. I just got Fend by Nick Pyle in the mail today. It's a simple fight story, but very well done and very lushly illustrated. Fend, huh? I'll keep that in mind. All right. Axel Press Button by Steve Moore is good. I've been reading Battle Angel Alita. Yep. Great artist. One fun thing is Randy's comic has a letters page, which I found a super cool addition. Great to see that, a continuing tradition. Randy Stone? Yeah, that's awesome. I picked up the issues I was missing of Scott Snyder All-Star Batman. I've been watching Legends of the Galactic Heroes. I don't know that. Your hands are great, Chris. I think he's talking about my real hands. Wes Craig's Kaya series is off to a good start. Is it? I didn't pick that one up. Maybe I should. Night of the Ghoul issue 2. Good. Silver Coin. I've heard good things about Silver Coin. I haven't read that. Wait, Chrissy says Clerks 3 was great. What are you talking about? I'm glad you liked it. I was expecting it to be funnier. Did you watch the Weird Al movie? I did. I think that one was pretty good. That's worth watching. For moving pictures, finally started watching Del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. Always enjoy well-done anthology. My friend John has been telling me I need to watch that. Maybe I'll watch one tonight. Barbaric 3. Okay, I like Barbaric. I should read that. I've been reading Golden Rage. I don't know Golden Rage. Have you read Farmhand? Nope. You guys are recommending all sorts of unique things. This is cool. Did Kevin bring back Comic Book Men online? Did he? I don't think so. I cried, no lie. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was emotional. It just, I was expecting it to be more of a comedy. Justice Warriors is a fun new series. Definitely get Silver Coin. Okay. Detention number 2 by Tim Hensley came out recently. I'm waiting for my copy. His Sir Alfred number 3 is one of my top favorite comics. Right on. Slowly picking up issues of Ginseng Roots by Craig Thompson. Thanks for reminding me. I need to get those. Love Craig Thompson. All right. Someone said, like, let's see this up close. I'm not done, but yeah, I'll show you up closer, like what it looks like. Hold on. I would say I need to bulk up my Batman. Sorry about that. I tend to draw him too skinny, I guess. Bloodstained Teeth is a good vampire. I do like vampire stuff. Yeah, I've checked out Black Hammer. I did an episode on Comic Tropes about it. It's interesting. Clerks 3 is amazing to me, mainly because I watched in Jersey with Kevin in a room full of people who love his work. That does sound like a good way to do it. It does sound like a nice way to do things. Bubble by Jordan Morris is really good. Man, so many interesting recommendations. Wow. Any thoughts on Undiscovered Country from Image? Undiscovered Country, was that the Donny Cates Jeff Shaw book? If so, I like that. If that's the one we're talking about, I think that's what it's. Or was that God Country? Is Undiscovered Country a new book? Oh yeah, Andy, I remember you recommended that last week, and Chrissy and I watched the first episode. Very interesting. We'll probably continue to watch that. Yeah. No, I did not know that Cliff Chiang did a Catwoman series. I missed out on that. I heard it was one of the best comics from last year. Really? I do admire Cliff Chiang's artwork. He drew a great Wonder Woman, so I'd be curious to see his work on Catwoman. The less bulky look works for the Nightwing, though. So as a Nightwing fan, you get a pass. Like when I was drawing this, I thought of this as a beefy Batman, but then I look at them side by side and I'm like, well, Batman should probably be thicker. I don't know. Oh, cool. Reread Strike Force Moratori. Big fan. Found because of your episode on it. Such an underrated story. Would make an incredible TV show, honestly. Incredible. Sorry. Oh, okay. I got it wrong. Undiscovered Country was Snyder, wasn't it? Okay. Nice foreshortening. Okay. And Riv says God Country is Donny Cates. Oops, I was thinking of God Country. Undiscovered. I guess I haven't read that one. I haven't read everything by Mr. Scott Snyder. Boy, can you imagine if I admitted that during the interview? He would have torn my head off, wouldn't he? I'm like, why am I wasting my time with you? If you haven't read everything I've ever done. No, he was really, really nice actually to talk to. That was interesting. He really, if you haven't seen it, like Scott opens up in a huge way about the pressures that he felt on Batman and during like that whole New 52 time, and how he made some mistakes and how he feels like he was lucky to get past them. And I get it. Let's see. Congrats on the interview. It was great. Well, that's nice of you. Void Coupon says, finished Invincible. I couldn't put it down. Sad I don't have more to read. I bet that would be a fun book to have binge read. I, of course, read it monthly from the beginning. And yeah, I'm going to go find that interview after this is live. Yeah, just go to Comic Tropes. It's going to be the most recent one. Unless, by any chance, you are a patron, and then you have access to next week's episode, which is already up, and I am now working on the episode after that. I'm still reading Donnie's Hulk. Okay, good. It wasn't really working for me, but I do like usually most of Donnie's stuff. That's somebody else that I talked to briefly and might be able to do an interview with in the future. I think he would be an interesting guy to talk to. But I do recognize that I am making a mistake. I am interviewing too many writers and not enough artists. I don't know exactly why that is. I will do my best to correct that. That's probably something inherent to me because I like writing and feel like I'm a better writer than I am an artist. So I think I reach out to too many writers, not enough artists. I binged Invincible early in the pandemic. Nice. Interview Stegman. Yeah, he's an up-and-comer. That could be interesting. Interview Risso, Eduardo Risso. That would be very interesting. Writers are verbose and artists are shy. In general, I think you are right. Let's see. If you interviewed Snyder, Tynan would be neat. I should talk to him, though. That's nice of you to say, Carrie. I've got a long way to go. Obviously, like, all I was able to do in like 2 hours was like a light pinup, and that's with like having already done the sketch ahead of time. What do you think of Warren Ellis returning to Batman? Warren Ellis is a talented writer. I think that he needs a path to redemption, so I would be curious to see that. He's written some stuff I really liked. Not gonna lie, both Planetary and Next Wave are books I really like by him. It's also probably because writers have far more time to offer than artists. That could be a factor. Capullo would be great. That's true. That's honestly a lot of work done well for 2 hours, Chris. I don't know about that. I almost forgot. I also picked this up recently. I found it for just $10. Look at that. I don't know how many of you know about Lord of Light. Lord of Light, man, you know what? I'll give a brief thing, but if you want a deep dive, I'm going to recommend something else. That would be interesting to talk to Doc Shaner. Let us compliment you. I accept the compliment. I accept it. Lord of Light, Jack Kirby creation. You can see that here, right? And it was an idea for a theme park and a movie. Well, Reaction has made it into an action figure. It's a Jack Kirby design. It's glow in the dark. It was $10. Sold. Icing on the cake, the colors for this were done by my friend Marc Engler. Heavy Metal eventually got the rights to all the Lord of Light artwork, which had never really been published before. And Marc Engler colored it, and he did it in very bright sort of, day glow colors. Awesome stuff. Look at the back here with this was like an idea of like what a theme park might have looked like. Jack Kirby went way over the top with like what was doable and stuff. But Lord of the Light, you might have heard about because they used that idea for the fake film Argo, which was used to get some hostages out of the Middle East. That's a Ben Affleck movie that's quite good. So you can get a taste of it there. It's some really interesting like history on like a Jack Kirby project that didn't ultimately come to fruition, really, at least not during his life. I should interview Marc. Maybe I should. And so there's a YouTuber out there that does comics. Hold on. I'm trying to remember his exact name. I think it's called Jerk Comic. Let me double check with my phone, okay? And Jerk Comic does very deep dives on his subjects. I'm seeing if that's his name. I'm right. It is Jerk Comic. So let me plug that guy. He's been doing a huge series on Lord of Light, which he goes so in depth. It's also really about Jack Kirby's life. And it's a lot like more listening to an audio podcast. There is imagery, but he tends to have one up on screen for like several minutes at a time, just doing like a slow zoom or something. But Jerk Comic does some pretty deep research. So if you wanted to like listen to something about comics history while you were, say, drawing or doing a chore, I would recommend it. Uncle Jerk. And so he's doing something on Lord of Light right now. He's up to like 7 parts of it, and they're pretty long parts. So, yeah, I think he's doing a good job on that. I haven't listened to it all, but I've listened to a bunch of it. And yeah, I feel like I've got an obligation as my channel grows to give shout outs to up and coming people on both like YouTube and in comics. Like, I really feel like that's my responsibility. And I haven't like always been able to do it for every comic. You know, it's tough. Someday, at some point, I'd love to set up a small grant for up and coming artists. I would like to do that at some point. But I've always tried to mention other comic book channels that I admire. Cartoonist Kayfabe I've been mentioning since they started, and some others. But Jerk Comic, if you want to know more about Lord of Light, an unfinished Jack Kirby project. I won't really cover that since he's already sort of done it. At least I don't think I would. If I did, it would be in a very different format. All right, I'm going to get going pretty soon too, Jamil, but thank you for being here. It means a lot, like having you guys here. Anyway, I got this pretty fun figure, and it glows in the dark, so I wonder if I shut this light off, if we could see that it glows at all. Hold on. Oh, there's too many lights on in here. Can I do that? You can almost see that it's glowing. Not really. There's too much light. There's too much light. Most recent video, Jack Kirby and the CIA. I am sold. I think it's good to listen to. I do. So, all right. I think that'll do it for this week's show. Thanks for being here while I talked about the latest comic books. If I was going to give my recommendation out of what came out this week as like the best of the week, like a do not skip, probably would be Night of the Ghoul. But I like horror. After Night of the Ghoul, I would say Batman and the Joker Deadly Duo is really interesting to look at where Marc Silvestri has gone as an artist. And this came out last week, technically, but this was a nice discovery, Riddler Year One. So those three are strong recommends out of like what's come out recently, okay? Thanks, everybody. Please go check out that interview that I've got with Scott Snyder on Comic Tropes. And if you can, share it with somebody. Interview episodes never get watched as much, so I can use all the help I can get. But you guys are all fantastic. Tell you what, I give you the devil salute. What am I talking about? That's 2 salutes at once. Devil salute goes like this. All right, folks. Take care. Keep reading comics. I'll see you in a week. Bye.